My name's Blake. I'm an alcoholic.
Hey, Blake.
I'm not sure I need that, do I?
No, you don't.
Sobriety date July 17, 2017. Grateful to be here. Thanks for asking me to do this tonight, Tristan. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't kind of resentful. You didn't ask me to do it for the 17th anniversary. We've all heard Steve Mitchell's story before. I mean, we'll talk about that later. But no, in all seriousness, I am grateful to be able to do anything that Alcoholics Anonymous asked me to do. I will say that Tristan, I don't know where the doubt came from, but he's asked me probably 8 times in the last month if I was still going to be speaking tonight. And I've had the same answer every time. But no, I'm delighted to be here. I'm a little nervous. As I mentioned, my sobriety date is July 17, 2017. Member of the Primary Purpose Group of Southern Pines. We meet at the First Baptist Church in Southern Pines on Mondays and Thursday nights at 7 p.m. If you're ever in the area, feel free to join us. It's a group very similar to this. We're a 3 legacy group that continues to carry the message on not just Mondays and Thursdays, but throughout the week. And I know y'all do a good job of working with us to be able to carry that message effectively. My job here tonight is to tell you in a general way what I was like, what happened, what I'm like now. It'll probably come out as what I want to say, what I said, and what I wish I would have said. But that's all right too. I'm gonna try to get over this nervousness and just kind of share my story. I don't have a lot of jokes besides my story. I try to make light and not take myself too seriously. As I mentioned, my sobriety date is a date that I hold near to my heart, and I hope that just about everybody else in here that has a sobriety date holds near to your heart as well. It was a Monday afternoon. I walked through this building. I walked through that back door right there, and I was greeted welcomely by a guy that came from this table right here, had never seen me before, and walked to the back of that room and introduced himself to me. And the impact of that on me today is still very vital. I continue to try to spread that love, and I try to spread that message through my actions rather than how I'm talking to people. I'll never forget that, and I'll continue to cherish that moment. I'll just kind of give you an idea of a few years ago. This was not my idea of a Saturday night. Standing up here, sharing a message, experience, strength, and hope in a suit that doesn't fit me. Nervous as all get out. A few years ago, Saturday night would have been wide open, and I can't believe the life that I have today through Alcoholics Anonymous and through work in a program of recovery. I appreciate just the guys that are in here that were in here when I came in, and guys that have come after me. Appreciate John recognizing that I'm wearing a suit and tie tonight. I wasn't going to wear the suit, and I was just going to ask y'all if anybody saw my sponsor to just lie about it, but we can't really start off dishonest, and he decided to show up anyway, so I guess I'm going to keep it on behind the podium. But it was, when one of the first meetings I ever went to, a fellow by the name of Billy Duncan from Red Springs was speaking, and he mentioned that when he grew up in AA, that he wasn't allowed behind a podium without a cut and tie on. And that's a tradition I try to continue to honor today. Continue to live that out and pass that along to any guys that I work with. And whether they do it or not is a different story, but that's what's been suggested to me. John's a busy guy. It's good to see Carl here too. Haven't seen Carl in a while.
Four-legged Carl.
Four-legged Carl, yeah. The other one probably walks on 4 legs sometimes. Sorry, I'm trying to get these nervousness out, But in all seriousness, I'm a guy that I'll just kind of jump right in. I grew up in South Carolina on the coast. Loved every bit of childhood. Didn't have everything I wanted. Had everything I needed. Had loving parents. Didn't really know what that meant at the time. Didn't really know what a normal household looked like. I know that I had a mom and dad, and that they cared for me. And my dad went out his way to buy the bicycle for Christmas and coach the baseball team and to just be there for me when I needed a father figure in my life. And my mother, just a very, very, lower middle class family. Not a whole lot going on, not a whole lot to be braggadocious about. Just a family that had a lot of love and compassion. I had an older sister, and from what I could tell at that moment in time, that's what a family was supposed to look like. There wasn't a whole lot of extra going on. And I can recall as a child just looking up and to my father and even the dishonesty that kicked in. I loved spending time with my dad. I loved doing everything that he had to show me. I loved practicing the morals and the values that he instilled in me at a young age. I was 10 or 11 years old at the time, and my father passed away tragically, and at that same time my mother was involved with another guy, and it was a pretty hectic household at that moment in time. There was a lot of alcohol and substances within the household that I probably shouldn't have been exposed to at such a young age, but I was. That's part of my story, and I just tried to take what I could from it, really. I was young, I was confused. There's a lot of confusion and fear that set in at that time. Being in a broken home, everything was so normal, and within a very short amount of time, things went, sideways. And I didn't really know what that meant. Didn't know at a young age what discipline was. My father passed away at 11 years old. All discipline went out the window. My mother did her thing, and it was kind of my sister and I to fend for ourselves. And we did what we wanted, essentially. I understand today that my mother probably did the best she could with the resources that she had at the time. But those were some vital years that the years that my father was with me, the morals and the values that I was taught through the time that he was around. I try to carry with me today, but what I've realized is the power of alcoholism took all this from me. And the dishonesty and the cheating and lying and stealing and all those things took a vital role in my life over all the good that he had taught me. It outweighed it at one point in time. But I, at 12 years old, 11, 12 years old, something like that, with that confusion and that fear and just not really knowing a whole lot, I'm looking for acceptance anywhere I can get it. And I tried to latch on to my sister and her older crowd and her friends, and I took my first drink of liquor at about 12 years old, something around there. Alcohol, what it did for me, I hated the taste of it. I hated waking up on the toilet at a young age. I hated, puking all night, and but at the same time, I loved the feeling that it gave me. I loved the acceptance and the approval of others, and just a lot of that fear that was casted out from being consumed with alcohol. And I clearly, at 12 years old, I wasn't a daily drinker. It was an opportunity thing. Whenever I had a chance to go out with the guys, and I was able to go camping or whatever that looked like when I was a teenager. I had found that solution at one point in time, at a younger age, and I tried to introduce that to other people, and just I wanted to feel like that as often as I could. And I'll tell you, I loved every bit of it. I loved every bit of it until about the time I was 21 years old. I loved what it had to offer for me. I loved being able to get drunk when I could. I loved the camaraderie and the friendship and the effect produced by alcohol. At a certain point, it I think it says it turned on me and all but cut me to ribbons. Through high school, I don't know how I graduated high school, but I did. College was never on my mind. Formal education was never on my mind. I was a beach bum, really. I love going to the beach. I love skipping school. I love surfing. I love sitting out on the beach all day long. I'll drink till about 1 o'clock. I'll go home. I'll take a nap. I'll wake back up and go start drinking again about 5 or 6 o'clock, and do that probably 5 days a week at the age of 18, 19, 20 years old. And I had a blast. And I'd be lying if I told you I didn't. It was the way that the crowd that I ran with. It was the lifestyle that we lived, and not a whole lot of consequences going on. I'm able to keep jobs working in kitchens at different places, and working out on the beach and parking cars in parking lots, and I'm able to make ends meet. I just knew there was something better in life. You know, here I am, 18 years old, and I got a bunch of friends that are going off to college, and they're further in their lives. And you know, I'm still doing the same thing. And then a few years later, here they are coming back from college, and I'm thinking, how'd I miss that? You know, and I had a real problem of comparing myself to other people's lives, and not having the same opportunity that everybody else did around me. I feel like everybody else around me was able to achieve these things, and I never had that opportunity. Truth is, if I would have worked hard enough and I wanted it that bad, I probably could have done it too. I've got to look at it like that today and not play the victim so much. But I'd like to say, excuse me, once again, from 12 to 21, drinking multiple days out of the week, you know, involved in some other things and some other activities that I love being a part of, with no consequences involved. And I don't know where I crossed that line at, but somewhere along the line, I crossed into some threshold that I wasn't really having a whole lot of fun anymore. It went from fun with problems to just problems. And I can't tell you how that happened. I continued to try to live the same way I'd been living before, but there was just so many variables that were in place that wouldn't allow me to enjoy the effect that was once produced by alcohol for me. At 21 years old, a pretty sudden impact that happened in my life is one of my best friends that I grew up with from a very young age passed away. And there was a lot of confusion on how he died, and we happened to be we were out of town when it happened, and there was a lot of questioning and a lot of confusion, and I took a lot of heat and a lot of blame for his death, and that really sent me into a spiral, sent me into a state of just, I'd like to call it depression. I think it's just untreated alcoholism. You know, at that point, I became a social drinker at the beach with my friends to a social drinker in my room by myself with the door locked. And I just went into a deep state of, just trying to cover up feelings, and it was a pretty bad time for 20. I was 20 years old when it happened. After that, I get to a point where I'm living with my mom. She doesn't want anything to do with me. I'm stealing from her. I'm jumping around on couches. I'm taking from anybody that I have an opportunity to take from. I'm not living an honest lifestyle, and I just continue to spiral out of control. And so here I am, about 21 years old, and I go to a house party one night, and I went to this girl's house party, and I woke up the next morning. I stayed at her house. I woke up the next morning. I started cooking breakfast and didn't leave for about 4 years. And that's because she allowed me to stay there. I was going to take advantage and manipulate any situation that I could. If you were going to put up with my mess and you were going to support me and my habits, I'm in. It didn't take much thinking on that. If anybody was willing to support me for a period of time, I was gonna roll with it. And I'm sure there's some other people in here that have probably experienced that. And after a while, it doesn't turn out well. And she asked me to leave, and I don't really have anywhere to go, but I want to keep her happy, so I go to a treatment center, and I go to my first detox. And I think I'm 22, something like that. And I go to my first detox, and I go to a treatment center, and I'm there, and the first day I was there, I don't know if this story really matters, but I'm going to tell it anyways. The first day I was there, it was like June Fest, or maybe it was Unity Day or something. There was like 200 people at this place. They had a speaker from out of town come in, and I was told I was the most important person there, and that's exactly what I needed to hear. And they gave me, like Chelsea's going around with these raffle tickets tonight. They gave me about 5 raffle tickets, and they said, here, you can hold on to these. And it was for a 50-50 raffle. And mind you, there's a couple hundred people pitching in on this. And first day I'm out of treatment center, coming out of detox, broke, disgusted, mental obsession still all over me. And I'll be damned if I didn't hit that 50-50 raffle. And it's about $400 and $300 or $400 or something. And I'm thinking, treatment centers ain't that bad. Like, I can roll with this, And I stayed there for a little while, and they made you remember how it works within the first 30 days. you know, I'm an overachiever. I want to be the soberest person there, and I probably couldn't even define the term sober at the time. But you know, I learned how it works by heart, memorize it. They told you, you know, you got to be willing to do stuff like that, and I said okay. And you know, about 6 weeks into that place, there's a guy that had been there for about 9 months, and he left. And I thought, you know, I kind of looked up to this guy, and he was doing the deal. And when he left, you know, 9 months after being there, they got a phone call a day or two later, and they're like, "Yeah, that dude didn't make it," you know. And I'm thinking in the back of my mind, like, why? Like, why would you? You've been, you know, sober for 9 months, and you're doing good, and you go back home. Like, I didn't understand it. I didn't understand, you know, like here I am 6 weeks in, and I'm feeling better, and I'm sleeping better, and I'm eating better, and I think I'm doing what I need to be doing. And I just didn't understand how you could just walk back out on it like that. And sure enough, I left, you know, not too long after that, and I was in the hospital the night after I left. I was in the back of an ambulance again, and I couldn't tell you how it had happened. Today I could tell you it's lack of power. But at that point in time, I couldn't have told you why I would have made those decisions. You know, I left that place, and the next couple of years is the same thing. It's just repetition, in and out of jail cells, in and out of detoxes, and stealing from whoever I can get around, and probably not being too friendly. Nobody really wanted anything to do with me. You know, my mom and my stepdad, they tried to kick me out of the house, and they called the cops on me. And the cops walked in there and said, "Well, is that his toothbrush?" And they said, "Yeah." I said, "Well, legally he's got to live here." And I said, "Yeah, how about that?" You know, and I thought I had a one-up on him, you know, but it was just the same lifestyle that I was living. No spiritual principles in my life whatsoever until, you know, my actions catch up with me, and I'm back in a jail cell, and here I am sitting in the county jail cell with a felony charge for about 6 to 8 weeks. I don't recall exactly how much it was, and I needed $200 to get out of jail. And nobody that I knew or that I associated with was willing to put up $200 for me to get out of jail. You know, $200 is a lot of money, don't get me wrong, but that just shows you the harm that I had caused throughout my drinking and my using. That was right where everybody wanted me, put it that way. And that was kind of a low blow, you know. And of course, you know, within that facility and untreated alcoholism, I'm blaming everybody else. You know, here I am, and I'm thinking on how this is all everybody else's problem, and, you know, I wouldn't have got caught if I did this, and none of that stuff really mattered. But, you know, I needed to take a look at the bigger picture, and nobody came and saw me. Well, I didn't have anybody see me almost the whole time I was in there. And I had one guy that came and saw me. He's one of my best friends today, and he used to drink like I did. He used to smoke and do other things just like I did. He was bottom of the barrel drunk. He's actually spoke at this building before. Lives in Charleston, and he came and saw me at that jail. And he didn't come to see me as an old running buddy. He came to see me as a sober member of Alcoholics Anonymous. And he came to share with me how he had stayed sober at that point in time for about a year, and came to pass that along to me. And he didn't put money on my books, and he didn't bail me out of jail. But he gave me the fundamental of what one alcoholic talking to another, the depth that carries. And I try to continue to practice that today. You know, and regardless of what he told me and showed me, you know, I never really ran with it. But I guess you could say, even after being to detoxes, even after being to treatment centers, I'd really like to say that that's probably my first real introduction to Alcoholics Anonymous, is being broken in a jail cell, wanting help, and somebody else from Alcoholics Anonymous sharing their experience with me. And I'll never forget it to this day. I hope I never forget that memory. But, you know, I leave there. I go to court, and the judge has some words for me, and I see my mom in court. I'm thinking, she's about to get me out of this one, you know. And the judge asked my mom if she had any words she wanted to say. I don't really know how courts work, but I was on one side and she was on the other side. And he asked her if she had any words she wanted to say. She said, "I don't care what you do with them, but send them as far away from here as possible." And I'm thinking, you know, once again, the blame game. Like, what? You can't do this to me, you know? And my sponsor's going to love this one. Judge saw fit for me to get sentenced to the South Carolina Department of Mental Health. And and I stayed there for a little while. I can't really speculate on what their recovery program looked like there, but it was probably a place that I needed to be, and it gave me the resources that led me here ultimately to this area and to walking in this building. I stayed there for 30 or 40 days, and once again, I'm feeling good. I'm eating good. I haven't drank or used any substances in about 40 days, and they sent me to Charlotte to like a sober living environment in Charlotte, and I try to get involved there. The facility there that I was living, you got to go to a certain amount of meetings every week, and that was really the only requirement. Get a job, pay your rent, and go to meetings. And at that time, I thought that was pretty pointless. But I'd go to meetings, and there's a lot of meetings in Charlotte where I was living. And I'd walk up to a meeting, a clubhouse kind of like this, and just what I try to do today. There's guys that come up to me and ask me, and say, "Well, do you have a sponsor?" And I say, "No, not really interested." And I'm like, "You do now?" And I'm thinking, well, can't come back to this meeting. And so I kind of hopscotch around to different meetings without trying to be seen, because I'm some slick guy, and I ultimately, with no solution to my alcoholism, after whatever, a few weeks, few months, whatever, I always get back to drinking. That's the solution that shuts this brain down for me. And I've never really, at this point in time, I suppose I've been introduced to AA for a couple of years and had been to a bunch of meetings. Just wasn't willing to do what AA had to offer. I wasn't willing to put the work in. I wasn't willing to do what everybody else said I should do. I'd walk into a meeting and they talk about God and spirituality, and I'm thinking, that ain't for me. And I'd walk out, and I wanted absolutely nothing to do with that. I could say that I probably never sincerely tried to pray in a day in my life, and I continue just to get the same results from it. I was working in Charlotte, and I was living there, and here I keep getting kicked out of this recovery home, whether it be for drinking or other activities that apparently it's frowned upon to have women in the recovery home, and so they kick me out and they send me to a shelter. Jonathan and I were talking about that last week, and I could never really see the wrong and the harm that I was causing through that. Once again, I'm just a victim in all of this, and wondering how I ended up where I'd ended up, and I just, it never appeared to me that if I came in here and was really broken and I wanted to take some suggestions, that I could probably live a good life. But at that moment in time, I suppose I wasn't surrendered. I wasn't ready at that point. I continued to just kind of hop in and out of that place. I'd drink, they'd send me to the hospital. I'd come back 5 days later. I'd stay sober or dry for a couple months, couple weeks, and I'd drink again. And they'd send me back to the hospital, and they'd allow me to come back, and they just continued to enable me the whole time. When I ultimately was able to, I was able to stay working through this period, and I finally had put together probably 6 months or so, and once again, not through Alcoholics Anonymous, but just through my own willpower and what I thought was my own willpower. And I wasn't really doing anything for my recovery. I wasn't doing anything to put my alcoholism at rest. I was just trying to achieve things. I wanted to get a car and get a license, and of course, the way I am, I do things backwards. I go get a car, still don't have a license, and just drive that for a couple of years. I'm sure nobody else in here has done that. But I just being dishonest. I'm going through the checkout line at Walmart, and here I am. I'm not drinking or anything. I'm going through the self-checkout line at Walmart, and I'm ringing up a roll of paper towels, and I'm putting $100 worth of stuff in bags and walking out with it. And y'all don't get no bright ideas now. But it's just things like that. Without a drink, I'm still not living the way that I should be. And I'm working. I'm staying busy. And I remember one night after work, some guys said, "Hey man, let's go to I think it was Fox and Ham." And I said, "Okay," or maybe Wild. I don't recall what it was. But so we went out, probably 8 of us, and they ordered beers and a couple shots for the table. I said, "Nah, I don't do that stuff. Y'all don't want to get me start drinking." And I went home that night, didn't drink anything. And probably 2 weeks later, did the same thing. Let's go out tonight. And yeah, I'll go out. I can hang out. I don't have to drink. And sure enough, I think I had 2 or 3 beers that night. And I went home. And I thought, well, maybe this is a little different, and maybe I can drink a few beers and go home. And I try to emphasize the fact that when I say I'm an alcoholic and I'm powerless, I can't guarantee you how much I'm going to drink when I start drinking. I can't tell you when I'm going to stop, what I'm going to do, who I'm going to hurt. And of course, the next time we went out with those guys on like a Wednesday night, we go out, have a few beers. Those guys go home to their families at 9 o'clock, and I shut the bar down, and I'm back at it. I'm right back at doing what I'm doing, and that sent me out of spiral, out of control for a few months, and I'm asking myself, how did this happen? How did this happen? I couldn't fathom what had got me back to that point again, and of course, when stuff hits the fan, I got to call mom, and I called mom, and I just told her, I said, I can't stop drinking, I can't quit, and she said, Blake, why do you keep doing this? And I probably told her the most honest thing I'd ever told her. I said, I just don't know. I don't know. It had always been excuses in the past, and I didn't know at that point in time. I didn't know why I was different from other people that were willing to drink with me. But I thank God for some of the work that we do within Alcoholics Anonymous, within different sectors, and I went to my manager at the facility that I was working. I worked for a pretty large company at that point in time, and I told him, I said, John, I need some help. And I just told him what was going on with me. And I walked in with a box of tissues, and I knew it was about to get emotional, and here I am, I'm back at square one. I had worked so hard to get some things that had mattered, to dress up the outside and look like I was doing okay. And he said, Blake, my brother's a doctor in California. He's been sober in Alcoholics Anonymous for almost 30 years. And so he went above and beyond to be able to help me. Even though he wasn't a member of Alcoholics Anonymous, he knew of Alcoholics Anonymous. He knew that there was places available for me to try to get the help that I needed. And I'll be grateful for that to this day. And I sat there with him, and we looked through, of course, I needed a treatment center. So I sat there with him, and I went through a list of treatment centers, and there was this one place that popped up, and goodness gracious, I don't even golf, but they had a beautiful picture of a golf course on the website, and I'm thinking, like, this is the kind of, my insurance accepted? Kirk's probably got something to do with that, and I'm thinking, my insurance is accepted here, like, this is a good deal, and I call the place up, and the guy answers, and he says, checking a detox, come when you get there. And this was on July 4th, which is a Wednesday, 2017, if my memory serves me correctly. And I called that detox and said, hey, I need some help. Can I come, here I am, think I'm going on vacation. Like, y'all got a reservation for me or what? And they said, yeah, you come tomorrow morning about 7 a.m., which would have been that Thursday morning. They said, we'll get you in here. And I don't know about y'all, but I got to go one last time. And so the Good Alcoholic, I think I checked in that following Monday, 3 or 4 more days. I wanted to make sure that my bank account was empty and all my resources. And, I'd gotten fronts from a bunch of different people, and I'm on the run, and I'm going to detox. We'll worry about that later. And so I checked into that detox facility, and, I stayed there for 7 days. The Monday that I got out of there was July 17th of 2017, and I was under the, I was taking some mind-altering chemicals within that facility, and that's why I consider my sobriety the day that I got out. And I left there, and I didn't know what I was doing, but I had kind of come to a point where I was willing to do what some other people had done, and what other people had taught me, and I leave there, and and I go to from there to, before I went to a treatment center, I went to a safe house, because they had to get some things in order for me for my arrival. And I went to the safe house, and here I am 2 or 3 days out of this detox, and those medications are wearing off, and I know it'll fix my mind that keeps running. My brain's running again. I know it'll slow that down. And I was really close to leaving that safe house before going to this treatment center, and I don't golf. I never heard of Pinehurst. Don't know anything about Rockingham. Didn't know where I was. Nobody close by, but here I am entitled, thinking somebody's gonna come pick me up at my beck and call, you know. And I was out of options. And I called that same fellow that had came and saw me in jail a few years earlier. And I knew that he had been an active member of Alcoholics Anonymous at that point in time. I said, "Listen, man, I just got out of detox. You know, what do I got to do? Something's got to change." And you know, I just told him, like, I'm ready to go. Like, I want to, you know, this ain't me wanting to drink. This is me about to go drink, you know. And he said, "Blake, have you ever just sincerely tried to hit your knees and ask something greater than you to remove the obsession to drink?" And I had never done that, and I thought it was a load of crap. But at that point in time, I was out of options. Nobody was going to come pick me up. I was stuck where I was, and I needed to make the best of the situation. And I believe that was a point of surrender in my life, because I believed that it worked for him. I believed that whatever he did was working in his life through Alcoholics Anonymous and through prayer and meditation. And I decided to give it a try. And, you know, I wasn't struck by lightning and the bush didn't burn on fire, but that night I went upstairs at that safe house and I got on my knees. I didn't know what I was praying to or who I was praying to, but I just asked something greater than me just to help. And I feel like that point of surrender in my life was what started me on this journey. When I slept good that night, my mind wasn't racing as much, so I tried it again the next morning. And that night when I went to sleep, I thanked whoever for keeping me sober. And then I woke up the next day and did the same thing. And I continue to do that on a daily basis. That's just what's been taught for me to do. You know, I go to a treatment center and I get out and I come to a bunch of meetings. I get a sponsor. My sponsor's meeting with me every Sunday morning. And he's taking time out of his day. A guy just got married. He had just had a kid. And he's coming over to this recovery home that I'm staying at and sitting down with me one-on-one, going through this book every Sunday morning for about 12 weeks. And I didn't know what it meant at the time. I didn't know what we were doing. Like, I truthfully, I didn't know. I knew that something was keeping me sober, and I continued to feel at peace through seeking on a daily basis. But I didn't know, you know, when he said start writing and gave me a sheet of paper and said start listing this stuff, and we'll talk about it later, you know. And then, you know, I finished up a resentment column, and he gave me a fears column, and you know, we do fearless moral inventory, and we sat back in that room back there, and for the first time in my life, I told somebody else all my life stories, the book suggests. And you know, I wasn't lifted up on cloud nine, but that was part of the process for me. That's what I needed to do, and I continue to be grateful for that, man. And I continue to go through the steps after that, and you know, after the seventh step, we got on our knees together and we prayed the 7-step prayers just as well as we did the third step. And you know, he tells me to write a list of all the people I had harmed, and I was willing to make amends. And I don't know about you guys, but like when I came in here, I wasn't willing to make amends to the ex-girlfriend and to make everybody happy. Like I really wasn't. That wasn't on my radar. I wasn't trying to win anybody back. You know, I was full of fear still, really. And I did what was suggested. You know, I prayed for the willingness, and you know, I write this amends list, and you know, he tells me to column them and put them in different categories, and let's start knocking them out. And I started knocking. You know, we put a strategy together to start knocking. I don't know if this is the right or wrong way to do it. However you've done it with your sponsor, probably the right way. But what worked for me is going through a process to determine. We knocked some creditors, and because I didn't live around here. I didn't have a vehicle. I didn't have a lot of resources to be able to just go knock out of a bunch of amends. I don't feel like I had created a whole bunch of harm in this area up to that point. So you know, we started working on it, and here I am. I'm you know, working a little job, staying busy throughout the week. I'm coming to a bunch of meetings, and I'm trying to help other people. You know, I can remember being 5 or 6 months sober. You know, probably sitting back where Chap's sitting and telling everybody about my sponsee's problems. You know, and in the middle of a discussion meeting, and I don't suggest you do that. But I wanted everybody in this room to know that at 6 months sober, I was sponsoring a guy. You know, and it was just out of ego. And I had to really take a look at these things. My sponsor and I really tried to reel that stuff in, and he worked with me diligently throughout the years. I guess about 2 years sober, I'd come to a bunch of meetings. I had made a bunch of amends. I was working with a lot of guys, and probably not enough. But I was trying to share this experience that had been passed along to me to somebody else if it was ever asked. And I was just getting to a point, where I was kind of stagnant in sobriety. I'm coming here probably 5 or 6 nights a week, and something. I needed a change of pace in my life. I needed to take a deeper dive into doing something else. And I was a member of this home group. And once again, as I mentioned a while ago, this home group does a lot in the community. And I switched home groups and went to another home group, and I changed sponsors, and I got involved there and realized that it wasn't necessarily what I was, coming to meetings for 6 nights a week, but the opportunities to serve at other levels, different nights of the week in my home group. And being able to carry an effective message at different facilities, whether it be corrections or detoxes or treatment centers. And I continue to try to do that. I got involved. I got service positions at the home group. Well, they kind of threw me into stuff, and I kind of started running with it, and probably do a little too much. But I was willing to, and I'm thankful for every bit of experience that I've been able to gain. And I'm here to tell you that that wasn't the solution to my problem at that point in time. I wasn't just cured from changing groups, and I never thought about myself again. And I've just got to remember on a daily basis that even in sobriety, without a drink, I've got to put my alcoholism to rest. I got to continue to seek. I got to continue to help other people. And when things aren't so peachy and when things aren't so good in my life, I've got to take a look at that stuff. I've got to utilize the steps and the traditions and the spiritual principles that are provided to be able to grow through that process. And most importantly, try to get outside of myself. In the past where and still today, where self-pity just consumes me. I'm able to try to get outside of myself and help somebody else rather than sit in that for too long. I'm grateful for every opportunity that I've had to be able to carry a message, to be able to share with others, to clean up the past. I've had some really cool men's stories. When I was less than a year sober, I flew out west and spent a week with my sister, and the fact that we both made it out of that alive was a miracle in itself. And I made an amends with her one of the last nights I was there, and I sat her down at dinner, and I bought dinner, and I just told her after being with her for about 4 or 5 days, and we weren't clashing. And I just told her while I was making amends with her, and that I had taken some money from her in the past, and that if there's anything that I could do to make that right, to feel free to allow me to know what I can do to correct that, from the past. And it was emotional, and I still get choked up over it, but she just confided in me and just there's nothing. I just need to continue to do what I'm doing, and I hear that a lot from loved ones, from those amends that may be easier to make than others. I hear that a lot. Just continue to do what you're doing, yada yada. And it wasn't the easiest amends that I'd ever made, but it worked at that point in time. And then we leave there, and I think we went and got some dessert somewhere. And she said, "So, how much money did you steal from me?" I thought I got off, And so, clearly I had to make that right, and just kind of came up with a ballpark idea of what that looked like, and came to an agreement with her and to make that right. And that was about a year sober. I was 2 years sober, and I had an uncle of mine that almost served as a father figure after my father passed away. And he was the oldest out of my father's siblings. My father was the youngest, and he was the oldest. And he had come down with lung cancer, and it wasn't good. And I didn't have a vehicle at this time. I was probably 18 months sober, because I had just gotten a vehicle right after that, and I didn't have a vehicle for the first year and a half I was sober. And but he had just come down with lung cancer. He was, a heavy smoker for 50 years, and I wanted to make peace with, just to show up what Alcoholics Anonymous has taught me to do, and I knew it wasn't going to end well for him. And I borrowed a car from a guy in Alcoholics Anonymous. I drove down to Charleston. They don't let visitors in the hospital past 9 p.m., and I walked in that hospital at 8:58. And it's just the miracles that kind of happen there. And I looked at him and choked up, and I went next to his bedside and said my piece with him. And after doing that, from my own making, his wife walked in and saw me in there. She was off somewhere else, and she said, "You can't be here." And but I feel like I had done what AA had told me to do. I had gone in and made my peace and said a prayer next to him while he was unconscious at that time, and sure enough, he passed away probably 6 hours later. And without Alcoholics Anonymous, without opportunities that you guys have shown me, I wouldn't be able to do stuff like that. I really wouldn't. Those are the occasions that I continue to hold dear to my heart, to be able to pass along to other people. I'm not a guy that's so gung ho to go make amends with people, as I've mentioned, and that was a powerful process for me to be able to overcome that. And I tell you the truth, she hasn't wanted to speak to me since, and that's okay. That's absolutely fine. I hope at one point maybe I'm able to speak with, I don't know the lady that well. They'd only been married a couple of years. I really did not know her that well. And this is a guy that was a big part of my childhood. And so I try to remember those particular circumstances that I hold dear to my heart, and try to grow from them. There's other occasions where I've made amends with family members down there, and they've also have not turned out the way that I thought they should. But once again, I was willing to do it. I stuck really close to a sponsor through the process. I said more or less what I was instructed to say, and I didn't get the response I was looking for, but that's okay. Those are things that I'll continue to try to learn from. That experience I'll continue to try to grow from. Today, I can honestly say that everything in my life today is a direct result of Alcoholics Anonymous. I can honestly say that. The job that I work, and from just about every relationship that I have in my life today is due to Alcoholics Anonymous. Everybody that I associate with is more than likely a member of AA. And this is coming from a guy that walked through that room a little over 4 years ago, not knowing anybody in here, and was greeted properly. And I continue to try to do that same thing with anybody else that walks into a room that I've never seen before. So, Tristan, thanks. Thanks, guys.